was a different time of the world, and everyone wanted to participate,
Well,
to join the Army or the Navy or something.
and
They didn't. I felt sorry for the guys that were 4F, because they really felt bad because they weren't taken to be members of the armed forces.
and they felt some
Yeah,
rejection at that.
Yeah, they really felt bad that they couldn't go. But we were, well, 18. Actually, we were just kids.
Yeah.
We didn't think we were kids at the time. We thought we were pretty tough and rough. That soon changes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, that's my point. It doesn't, not to take anything away from a combat soldier, but not knowing what it would be like is difficult. That's
I didn't like to be aboard the ships. I didn't like that.
make you sick.
Well, I was never seasick except once. Seasick once when we went from Okinawa up to Yokohama. But we ran an LST, landing craft tank, and the China Sea is very rough.
Mm.
It just, a lot of the guys that like to sleep on the deck, they couldn't do it because they go overboard.
Just roll you right off the boat.
Yeah, they flip you right off.
So where was the first place you rode four ships to get to Okinawa?
Well, we went from Seattle on the first ship to Oahu, and it was not a state then. It was just an island. They were all the Hawaiian Islands, and then we went from we went from Okinawa up to Yokohama. That's on the island of Honshu, the big island. And then they sent us down to the island of Kyushu, where they had a big prisoner of war camp. The Japanese did. So you never can tell where you're going to end up. So
And your initial destination was supposed to be Okinawa?
Pardon?
Did you were
Oh
heading-
yeah, we were going. Yeah.
And you got there a day?
A day after the war was in.
I see.
We were on a convoy of troops, and I don't know how many ships there were. They were stationed usually about 19 miles away apart, so the submarines couldn't get them.
So you were infantry being transported to...
Yeah, it was in the infantry. They have to have the infantry to dig them out.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So would you say that was a primary mission of your unit? Was to support?
Yeah, to join the infantry and try to take the island. But thankfully I missed it.
Yeah.
I had a friend from Springville that he was killed there on Okinawa. His name was Reynolds. In fact, his great-grandfather was the one that built the building. There was a bank building on the corner in Springville where Magablies is now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No,
He was killed, and and I went to school with his daughter, and she was, her name was Nana Lee Reynolds, so we named our daughter Dana Lee. And they received a letter from the War Department that their patrol had been changed 9 different times. They'd killed at least 90 men.
Oh.
It was a very bitter battle. The Japanese were very good soldiers. They were diehards. Yeah, they were. Yeah, when we got to Okinawa, we came in on. We had to just wait in like MacArthur did, because there's no place to land.
Yeah,
Just
did
had-
you welcome a pier to pull up to?
Yeah, you just walk in like you're just one of the boys, you know.
So when you landed or when you walked on, what was that like? I mean,
Oh, we were in about 18 inches of water, maybe 2 feet off the ship, because there was no port. There was no place that you could say, well, hey, I'm gonna get off here and not get my feet wet. But it was just.
did you know what when you arrived? Did everybody know the battle was over? Did they?
We heard about it on the ship. Yeah.
So how do you? I mean, what was that like? Did you clean up or?
Oh, yeah.
Did they keep you there for months?
No, I stayed on Okinawa for about to about 3 months, and then I drove because we were farm boys. We knew how to double clutch a truck, and these weapon carriers had to be double clutched for you could get them going. After you got them going, they had to have that little thing to, happen to them, and a lot of the guys had never been in a truck. Hundreds of them had never, you know. They weren't all farm boys. There were a lot of them, but they weren't all. So.
Describe what double clutching is.
Well, you have to you put your foot on the clutch, and then you put the gear, and then to go to the next gear, you have to clutch it again to go another gear.
Got it.
So.
Got it.
They don't make them that way now. They just anyone can drive one of these great big Kennecott trucks, because they just step on the gas. The school buses now, most of them are driven by women. They don't have to shift a
At all. Yeah.
the truck at all. You just put your foot on the gas or on the brake.
And you used to be a bus driver,
Yeah,
didn't you?
35 years. Drive you crazy.
I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah.
This year's theme of the concert is about the flag.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about experiences that you remember about the flag?
Well, we always had a soldier that was the flag bearer. Whenever we went out to train, I was stationed in Camp Roberts, California. And when we got there, it was just nice and green. It was in January. When we left, it was nice and dry and little prickly barbs all over the place. You just couldn't hardly lay down anywhere. it was a good experience. I think that's what a lot of the young men need today is to go into the army. Just because they haven't been taught to do anything that they don't like. And when you're in the army, you do it or else.
All the time. Pretty much everything's what you don't like.
Yeah, that's right.
I imagine. So, when you were on the ship, what was the role of the flag?
We didn't have any colors on the ship. We were 500 men on a ship. Why, there's not room for any practices or anything like that, any marching and stuff.
Probably had to do with that security as well that you were talking about.
Yeah, it was, and lights were out at dusks, so you had to just get along with what there was.
Does that seem to make a difference? I mean,
Oh yeah, security was, they can see a submarine or an airplane can see a cigarette glowing in the dark 5 miles up. Yeah.
stories now, I can't even remember what they were, but, well, there's one in here about stopping to get flour. Was that like a port or something?
Yeah, I know, I wrote that down. We stopped along the way on one of the little islands for supplies. And of course the flour, they bake bread on the ship, but when we got our slice of bread in the morning, I looked at it and it was like they'd taken a pepper shaker. And I had never seen a weevil. Even though I was a farmer,
Yeah, you can see.
I had never seen a weevil until I got on there, and I thought, what is that? They want me to eat that? I don't believe so.
So did you go hungry, or you got used to it?
No, you just kind of have to get used to it.
Wow.
Yeah. It was funny, and then the chickens, when they had chicken for dinner, I knew what kind of chicken it was because the legs were still covered with feathers. So it was different. But I'm glad I went. It was my privilege to go. It was my country and my flag. I'll be buried under it someday.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just turned 90.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Max was 94?
I think so. I think
Yeah.
I figured 94. I was just doing the math.
I remember when Max and his wife and Betty Hurst had a house where their home was where Taco Bell is, right on the corner.
My grandma's.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time there.
Yeah.
I was really young when Grandma passed away, and then shortly after that, the house got passed around a little, and then took it down. But yeah.
Yeah, but I remember that. We went there. We'd go there for parties after church and stuff like that. Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's Malcolm.
Betty was a sweet old gal. Yeah, she was.
What was it like to enlist? I mean, what's the process when you said 18 or 19? Yeah.
Well, when you're 18, they just send you a notice from the government that you're supposed to report, and which we did to Fort Douglas. We took the old Orem We met in Spanish Fork. That was the VA headquarters at the time. And we rode down the Orem up to Salt Lake, and they put us on a bus and took us up to Fort Williams. Or Fort Douglas, excuse me. And then they just, after lunch, they put you all in a line and you take the oath that you be a soldier and for the U.S. Army, and that's all it was. There was no party or special event. Yeah.
And from that point on, you're in. That wasn't just register. That was go report.
You're in. Yeah.
About like physicals and paperwork and.
Yeah. Though we didn't have to do anything. They took care of all of that. And I was going to mention, and then I forgot. But they keep you busy all the time. You don't just sit around. You're walking guard or doing KP or some cleaning the mess hall. You're up at 5 o'clock in the morning scrubbing the barracks, even though you scrubbed it yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah, there's no time for fooling around. On the weekend, you could go. A lot of the guys were Hispanics, and they'd go back into their hometowns from in California for a couple of days, and then they'd come back and train until they shipped out.
I see.
So it was, and if you had a good friend, why, you could go and do something, but a lot of us were LDS, and so we didn't do those things.
How long were you in Salt Lake before you went to California?
Oh, about a week.
Your actual training took place in California?
Yeah, Camp Roberts, yeah.
And then how long were you in California?
For about 5 months.
Wow.
And then we went from California to, took the train from California down through Arizona and Texas and went into Fort Meade, Maryland. We went through another town, Paris, Texas. Paris, Texas. And then we went into Baltimore, and we were headed for the Pacific, or for the Atlantic. I'm sorry. But when the war ended there, well, then they shipped us back to. I forgot the camp now in Washington State, and that's where we got a little ship. I had never left the state of Utah, and there was just a little teeny ship about that big on the ocean. And I'm telling you, it was a little ship. And when you're going out I remember the strait, and I forgot the name of the strait now, but it's along the Washington coast, and it was rough. It was, you had to hang on. And then when you got out into the open sea, it wasn't so bad.
Interesting.
But those are the few things I remember, and we were on from Baltimore to Washington. They had sleepers for us, so we didn't have to stand up all the time. When we went back from our 10-day furlough before we shipped overseas, we got on the train in Provo and went up through Colorado and got on one of the Kansas City Zephyr. And then that took us into Baltimore. And then there were lady soldiers all over the place. So we were gentlemen, and we let the ladies have our seats, and we slept in the restroom. It was so crowded, everybody was getting back to their offices where they were supposed to go.
So let me retrace this. You went from Utah to California to train.
Mm-hmm.
Probably by train you did that.
Yeah, training.
Then you went from California back to D.C. or Baltimore.
To Baltimore, yeah.
By train.
By train. Then when they changed our orders from going to the Europe for the war, we had a furlough for 10 days. So we took the train again and came out to Utah for 10 days. Then we went back, and that's how we got on the Kansas City Zephyr, because we left Provo. So I went across the United States twice before I got overseas.
You had never been out of Utah, but in the meantime you went twice, coast to coast. Yeah. And then from California, or from Washington State, you got on your first ship.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Little ship that took you out to a big ship, or went to a different station?
It's a one-stacker, they called it. It was the Kaiser ship.
Oh, yeah.
Where they laid the components down, and they welded everything together. Then they raised the two parts of the ship up and welded it together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, Kaiser built hundreds of them.
So it had a big seam right up the middle.
Pardon?
So it had a big seam right up the middle.
Well, yeah, they had to have everything work pretty good. They had to have some good engineers, because
it's got to match.
Yeah.
Perfectly.
They had to just put them together like a deck of cards.
Had no idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea. That's super interesting.
Yeah, and then when we got on the board of the ships, the reason I didn't like them is, for one thing, the bunks were about 18 inches apart. They'd be about 10 high down in the hold of the ship. So that's where you had to sleep.
Didn't roll over.
Yeah. No, there wasn't much roll. No, you were on a piece of canvas. There wasn't any mattress. Yeah.
And how long at sea would you say before you got to Okinawa? I think you said, but I didn't remember.
Almost a month.
A month with between 4 boats.
The one ship from Washington to Hawaii, and that was before it was a state. It was just an island, and then we went from on another ship up to Okinawa, and then from Okinawa we went on another ship up to Yokohama. That's on the island of Honshu, the main island of Japan, Tokyo and Yokohama, and then they shipped us down to Kyushu, an island between Okinawa and the main island of Japan, and there I ended up working on the railroad. We were switching cars down to off of the main railroads to our, well, we call it the, down to the hole, kind of, because there was a lower level of ground, and for supplies and stuff for a large army. Yeah, they had over 1 million men in the barracks on Schofield barracks in Hawaii that were ready to invade on that island of Kyushu where we were until they dropped the bomb. So it was we skipped out of that pretty easy too.
Yeah. Different experience.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, if Truman hadn't ordered the bomb drop, why, I'm sure a lot of us wouldn't have been here. But because it was a war. Everything that you can think of happens during a war. Things you just can't believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that changes you too.
Yeah, it's
matures you, but seeing things and hearing about things and knowing that those are people your same age,
yeah.
People who have lives like you.
Yeah.
It changes.
Just kids. How old are you?
17.
17. Okay. Yeah, there were 6 of us from Payson we all graduated at the same time, and we all 2 of them went to the Merchant Marine. One went to the Navy, and then 2 or 3 of us were in the Army. If you had flat feet, you went to the Navy. The Army didn't want you if you didn't have good feet, because you had to walk. Yeah.
Didn't care if you could swim, though.
Pardon?
Didn't care if you could swim.
No, they didn't care if you could swim.
It would have been handy, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, last night I was watching On a Wing and a Prayer. You know Walt Stewart from Benjamin.
Uh-huh.
He was telling the story of his best friend. He flew with him his 25 missions.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got his own plane. And they were on a mission to, I think it's called Pulaski.
Uh-huh.
And even flew side by side, saw him in the other plane, and then the clouds separated him, and he came in later and lost his best friend. And I just think, and like he says in the video, he had a wife at home, he had a future.
Yeah.
And for most of their training, they had no idea where they were headed.
Yeah.
I just can't. I can't imagine combat, but the not knowing is also difficult. Or to have a future and not be able to get to it yet. To be 17 before you can even enlist.
Yeah.
But to know that's ahead of you, or to know the world's coming to that changes.
Well, it was the war was everybody wanted to serve. They had the obligation. They felt with the obligation because of the attack on Pearl Harbor that it was they needed to be paid back, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that's what they did.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was quite an experience, and some of the guys that came up from the Philippines, they'd been in the fighting pretty heavy. They got kind of mean. In fact, I was scared of them because they didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want you to be associated with them. They had some tough times.
Yeah.
You have to give them credit.
Yeah.
And all the cemeteries, well, in Europe, I've noticed there are hundreds of thousands of men and women that are in those cemeteries. When we was in Hawaii, after the war, when I was taking my wife to Hawaii, the place they call now I forgot it. Anyway, there are just thousands and thousands of graves, just by they're just I can't. What's the name of the? Well, anyway. But there are so many men that didn't come back that should have come, and they had in some pretty terrible experiences. So
I don't know if very many young people know that there are cemeteries all throughout the world with Americans.
Oh yeah, they couldn't ship them all home. I mean, it was just there were just too many, so they just made cemeteries. There's some in France, and they are really. You look at all of those and you think, well, I could have been one of those. So you feel fortunate that you're here. Yeah.
We're sure glad you're here.
Yeah, I'll say.
Yeah, we're sure glad. You think of your posterity, children, their children, what you do for our community. It's just
Well, we
really.
raised 4 boys and 2 girls, and they've all done well, and they're all able to take care of themselves, and I don't have them coming back to live with me. And there are a lot of families that are doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun to have a visit, but know that they're okay.
Yeah.
No.
I have one son that has his daughter kind of went off the deep end, and she had 2 children, and they're raising them. So that's out in Grantsville, David.
Sure.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people from Payson that live in Grantsville.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's some Rollies, and I should have written that down so I could remember. But there's quite a group.
Really?
They all went out there to work for the government at the depot.
I see.
So yeah, there's quite a family out there.
Didn't know that. Didn't know it was even a place. Well, you said your favorite memorial is Payson City Cemetery.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Do you know any of the history of how that came about, or
Did I know what?
how that came about?
No, I don't. I didn't get in to contribute to it for some reason. There's a lot of I know most of the guys that contributed to it, but I don't know who started it or how it came about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not familiar with that.
It's really pretty, isn't it?
But yeah, but the American Legion, they always have the
VA stuff.
yeah, down to the hospital, down toward Benjamin.
Mm.
They have a lot of services down there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, there's a lot of good stuff on there, huh?
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna
Well,
be
a
really
lot of rambling.
It's, yeah, what I find's interesting though, it seems rambling because it's all familiar to you, but
Yeah.
like you said, it's a completely different world.
Yeah.
Talking about bunks 10 high with 18 inches, that's just,
yeah, it's a different thing. And the guys that were into the battles, they had to have nerves of steel, because the Germans and the Japanese were terrific soldiers. They were every good as us. We just had more of them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that turned the tide of the war. We had more planes and ships and I think of the guys who were in submarines that were lost. There were several submarines, American submarines that were blown up. And I thought, gee whiz, what a terrible thing to happen. You're down in that little boat, you know.
Yeah,
And the ocean is big.
it is.
Have
Yeah.
you been to Hawaii?
Not to Hawaii, no.
You should go.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah,
I've heard that.
but go in the months of February
Oh, yeah?
because that's when it's not the rainy season
Oh, I see.
and it's not so hot.
I see.
You can get 10 or 20 days there where it's just beautiful weather.
Nice.
And they have freeways just like we do on those islands. Yeah, on Oahu, which was the one where Pearl Harbor is.
Oh.
There's 6-lane highways all over the place.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very modern. Then you go from modern to very backwards, you might say, in the little communities. There's surfboarders everywhere. They like to surf, you know, and there's a lot of activity going on. There's a lot of, well, I shouldn't say bums, but that's what they are.
Just living off the day to day.
Yeah, they're not working for my Social Security, so I can
Not contributing.
my check every month.
They're not contributing.
Yeah,
Funny.
but they seem to have a lot of fun. The waves that I wouldn't even attempt to go out there and.
On your feet, let alone a
Oh.
board.
No, I don't go near the water.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah,
That's
it's
funny.
kind of, but it's a beautiful place. It's the volcanoes are still erupting there. Comes right down goes right down into the sea.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's and the 2 helicopter pilots that we had our family went over, and they'd take us right over the
That's what's filling in the lava.
yeah,
That's scary.
and look down there and it's mighty red,
Ooh.
the volcano.
Yeah. Yeah, active. That'd be
I often-
terrifying.
I often thought I hope that and after we got home a couple of years later, why both of the pilots were killed.
Oh.
Just the two that were on It took us, I don't know why, but they were both killed on their helicopters.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah, it is.
You obviously have a good reason to be on Earth. Somebody's doesn't want you there yet. Well, why don't we have you tell us a little bit about those plaques, and we can video that, and then.
Well, there's just places that we were in while I was in Japan.
We go in there.
Yeah.
And